Well, good morning, everyone. Let me see, my volume is up. It is. All right. Well, I'll get my astrological notes ready here. Okay. Well, good morning again. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 24th day of October, 2019. Well, let's see. Where are my cards? Here are my cards. I am ready, I promise. You know, I actually did the correspondences and astrological information for today. I did that last night. I don't know. Maybe it's a trend. Anyhow, the sun has moved into Scorpio. Also, the 12th house right now, anyway. Passionate, intense, experiencing everything deeply. But in the 12th house, it means you kind of work behind the scenes. You know, you may not be real comfortable out there in leadership roles, but at the same time, you know, most Scorpios I know possess them. My youngest son is a Scorpio, and he's definitely a leadership person, but he's also somebody that will, you know, go behind the scenes and clean things up too. So I don't know. Maybe I should look and see on his astrological chart if what he's got in the 12th house. But anyway, in his natal chart. But anyway, the moon is waning. It's in Virgo, and the 10th house as of this moment. And with Virgo, it's going to describe an awareness about body concerns, health concerns, sometimes overly so. Work is important, and also you may spend a lot of time there, which is either going to work for you or against you. You know, maybe in some ways it'll work for you, but maybe in your personal life, not so much, because maybe your family doesn't see you. New moon's in Scorpio on Sunday, 8:39 p.m. here, my time. We've got Pisces and Virgo intercepted today. When things are intercepted, when signs are intercepted, there's kind of not, maybe suppressed action, restricted action. So things don't work as well. Pisces involves dreams and faith and ideals and things like that. Virgo, of course, is you know, practical. It's, you know, sometimes ultra focused into reality, but, you know, kind of is a worrier sometimes. You'll find Virgos that are kind of worriers. My other son's a Virgo, and he's a bit of a worrier. Not so much anymore, I don't think, but when he was younger, he kind of was. But very, very professional, very, he's very practical, very focused, driven, sets goals, meets them, you know, that kind of person. But when Pisces, or rather when Pisces and Virgo are intercepted, when they don't really sit where when they're basically contained within a single house, each of them. We're talking about the 4th and 10th houses here today. But intercepted, they might not be able, we might feel like we can't really I don't know if discern is the right word to use, but it's kind of hard to tell what's, you know, our dreams, we may get carried away in our dream state anyway. We might not be able to see that maybe this is not so realistic. And so we may have a harder time discovering what's realistic and what isn't, you know, what's achievable and what isn't. We might be easily led by someone charismatic, less able to really discern what's real and what's fantasy. And I realize that that's kind of extreme. So, you know, you'll probably, if it manifests in your life, it'll probably be less so. But you may see kind of an energetic direction that way. 4th and 10th houses also suggest maybe difficulty with authority, maybe, especially if it's at work. You know, we tend to view authority maybe the way we view our parents. And so whatever our relationship was with them, we may try to have that same relationship with people that we work for. And if it was a good relationship, great. If it wasn't, then you may struggle. And all I'm saying is that they're not your parents, they're your boss. So you can have a little bit different interaction with them than you might have with your parents. It's just that there's that tendency, we learn how to deal with authority, you know, basically at home, you know. And if that's problematic, then, you know, it can play out in the same manner, you know, in the rest of your life. So unless you're aware of it and, you know, try to deal with it. Let's see, Scorpio. Oh, we got first house planets. We've got Mercury, Venus, and Pallas all in Scorpio. Intensity and communications, and inner focus is favored maybe with Mercury, independent thought. Kind of maybe you might like to network ideas off of people, but this will be a day which you might, seek information. You might be compelled to do that. Venus, with that, you're talking intensity and relationships. So just be kind of careful there, don't get too carried away. Pallas, also focus on wisdom and intellect, governs higher learning and understanding. Also, in the first house, you're talking originality, creative thought, sort of aligns a little bit with Uranus that way. So I don't know. I think that's about it. There wasn't anything aspect pattern wise that I thought was interesting. There wasn't any Thor's hammers or I have a Star of David one. What is that? The grand sextile or something in my natal chart. And so anyway, I wrote this post on the blog. It's been a long time ago now, because the blog's been in effect since December of 2012. So I've been writing for a long time now on that, and I wrote this one called "There's a Merkaba in my natal chart or in my astrological chart or something." And so I talked a little bit about that, and that's kind of a rare. I don't know how rare, but it's one of the more, ones that doesn't come up all that often. I think is it 2 yods, 2 or 3 yods in my chart as well. I have that as well. And I think, there's a mystic rectangle. There might be more than one. I don't know. There's just all kinds of weird stuff in there. But anyway, it's always fun to look at for those kinds of things, because they do talk about maybe a higher self-oriented direction in a way. And really, that's what we're here as. We're here as the higher self. We're here as spirit, focused into form, to experience life, in something that isn't unfocused energy, that when we're normally, we're not here in body. We're in this unfocused, collective consciousness of energy that is, trying to find expression, basically. So, because for whatever reason, Source wasn't happy with just sitting there and just being, kind of wanted to, get involved and do some things. So, hence, the Great Mother breathed out the universe. And I love that. I love that thought of resting in the Great Mother's breath. I also did a post on that. I think I called it that too, resting in the Great Mother's breath. I just find that just to be visually just so incredible, to think that, you're resting in the outward expression, thought expression of the great and benevolent mother. So I don't know. Obviously the creator has no gender, but if you're going to create life, that comes from mom, doesn't it? Sure, dad's involved, but dad's not having the baby. Well, unless you're transgender and you have a baby. We had a guy here locally who I think was the first man that gave birth that's transgender. He was she. Well, because he was born as she, but transgendered too, but transitioned to male. And then he got married, and they lived, about 20 minutes away from me here, as the crow flies. And he was profiled in, I think they ultimately got divorced, but I'm not positive about that. But he was, I think they had 2 kids even. And I think that, they were protected by the neighbors. Nobody tolerated any kind of nonsense, any kind of hate nonsense. So I don't know if they still live here, but yeah, that was an interesting thing. But he transitioned but kept, wanted to have the experience of having a child, I guess, and so didn't have everything removed in his transition, and he carried the babies. And that was interesting. It was a lesson in love and tolerance and acceptance and realistically, I think that the whole community benefited from it, if you want to know the truth. I don't know how they couldn't have. So anyhow, let's get started on the cards today and take our first 3 cards. If you haven't been here before, welcome. I do take the 13th card each time. I'm either going to do 3 or 4 cards, and then I'm going to do a rune from the Elder Futhark, and then I'm going to do a geomancy rune to sort of tie everything together. Sometimes it's an outlier, though, so we'll see. Well, here we have the 4 of Pentacles, so we're going to start out with the Earth element. And I'm not going to talk really about them until I get them all laid down. And, of course, if I can keep them all in my hand and not throw them away. So I should tell you what they were. I dropped 2 of them. One was the Wheel of Fortune, and one was the Ace of Swords. So, you know, that might matter to you today, so keep those in mind. Anytime you drop a card, it's usually significant. I just do it because I'm not particularly coordinated all the time, especially in the mornings. I have to wait for my hands to wake up a little bit. Although, you know, I'm in remission from RA, so I don't really have those problems so much anymore, but sometimes it just takes a little bit for things to get going. I have a damaged finger. I had a guy in a business I owned. He shook my hand as he was leaving, and he did it so hard. He was angry, not at me. Well, he was angry at me because I couldn't fix a problem that another business was causing him. So figure that one out, right? So he decided to shake my hand and squeeze it so hard that, and this was during the time when my RA was severe and I was still really ill. And he knew it, right? And he shook my hand, and he broke something in the finger, in the knuckle. And for the next 3 years, my knuckle was probably 3 times this size. You can see it's all deformed, although it's actually much better than it was. Anyway, the swelling just one night, after one night, went down. I mean, 3 years later, 3 years later, then one night I woke up the next morning. It had been bad the night before, but the next morning the swelling was down. But there were all these lumps, which are nodules. So I've been, you know, trying to get rid of them. I've been doing tincture of Solomon seal root recently. I started doing that. Not enough, so I need to actually increase it to 3 times a day. And plus, I've been doing a Solomon seal liniment, and I've actually made some improvement in the knuckles. So I don't know. Stay tuned on that. We might have some success there. That would be so great, because I can't articulate it. This is as far as it will go. See, it won't go to the hand. Well, I can get it this far, which is better than I could. But you see, I can't make a fist, and I'm a martial artist. So if I can't make an effective fist, then I have a problem, right? And I can't. I have to, I can actually get it better, but you see, it goes down below. So I can't do that. And that guy did that to me. So anyway, 6 of Cups, shared purpose, reciprocity. So we have a 4 and we have a 6. So currently we have a 10. But it's interesting, we have it's the 24th day, so we're talking a 6 energy, so higher self energy there. So that's definitely going to align with the 6 of Cups. You can think share purpose today. Oh, I don't care if that doofus shares remarks. We don't care. I need to turn off notifications, don't I? Let's do the 3rd card. No longer interested in anything he has to say. Well, we have the Tower. Actually, I never was. And this is the 16th rune of the Elder Futhark. Not of the Elder Futhark, of the Major Arcana. Well, okay, it's confusing today. It's a Thursday. It's a Jupiter day. Lots of energy, lots of expansive energy. So much so that I'm ahead of myself. Anyway, we're in tarot at the moment, not the runes, and this is the Major Arcana card, the Tower. So a 7 energy, bringing everything to balance. You can almost see the scales pictured there, can't you? You got the 2 people falling. They're the 2 pans, and then you have the top there that's being exploded by some lightning, blowing the tower off. This is actually a positive card. In fact, what we're going to do here maybe is, we did this one day. We had a yod that I talked about, and so I did a 3-card reading, and I didn't add a 4th, and so I had basically a yod in the reading, a yod reading, and it turned out that way, where you could have one card be the focal point. I may, and I think I'm going to do that now. I'm going to move this around so that the tower's in the center. We're going to begin with, and we're going to have that be our focal point. Basically, we need to blow through some stuff here today. We need to transition. We need to transform. Typically, it's perception. Everything actually is perception. Think about it this way. We talked about this yesterday from the standpoint of being an empath. I believe that I said something to the effect of that empath, the emotional resonance is what we feel. That's what the Great Mother expresses, is emotional resonance to create the universe. And so therefore we begin in emotion. And so I believe that our default state is one of being empathic, basically connecting and merging with the emotional resonance of the Great Mother's energy, which we all are our expressions of. So I believe that psychic ability, all of that's just empathic ability, and that's where it begins. From there, it will specialize clearly. Some of us, we hear the expression intuitive empath. That just means an empath that's also intuitive. But I believe it begins in the empath type of experience. I believe that that's how we resonate when we're not focused into form. I believe we resonate there. And again, it's when you come into body that the intuition is necessary. Prior to that, you don't need it. What are you intuiting? You're intuiting what people here are going to do, right? What they've done, what they're going to do, all of that. So that's after you get into form. But I think the base energy is emotional awareness, is awareness and tapping into the emotional vibration that comprises everything. And so that's why, anyway. So what this has to do with this, though, is the expression of it, you could think of it as the universe as projected thought in a way. But the thought is what manifests. So you could also say it's projected emotion, all right? But once it starts transitioning into thinking what we want it to look like, right? In other words, I want to have, this desk area. I want it to look like this. I want me to look this way. Whatever decisions we make, that's thought, that's intellect. So first emotion, then intellect. And so when I say that perception is usually what needs to change when you see the Tower card, it's basically that our focus has been altered with something that's come in to do that. Either new awareness, new truth, new information, a new person doing something. Maybe it's behavior, maybe it's an event, but something happens to switch our focus from where it was to where it is now. All right? Now, what we can look at this in terms of a yod, we can look at this kind of reversed with the impetus being the Tower, or you could say that we had to make a decision between holding on to what we have, being miserly. Here we have a king in the Four of Pentacles that's holding on tightly to his money, isn't he? His back is to the kingdom. Now, either it's all in defense of the kingdom and protection of the kingdom and elevation of the kingdom, but it doesn't seem so, because he's not being magnanimous about it, Like the Ten of Cups, for example, you see a fellow who's he's just sitting, right, on a stool of sorts, not really even a chair. You don't see the back. Maybe, he's kind of, rotund, so maybe there is one there, but it doesn't even appear like there's a back. He's just sitting. And behind him on this wall are 10 cups, right, 10 golden chalices. Well, it's about fulfillment, emotional fulfillment. But it's not something that he doesn't seem to want to extend to others. You don't have that feeling of, I'm going to keep this all to myself. I didn't mean to hit the computer there. Everything shook. No, we didn't have an earthquake. Although, they're putting sensors along the Oregon coast. I don't know. Some pilot project. Scary, isn't it? I was in a 9.2 earthquake when I was young. I was 6. I was living in Alaska, and when the big earthquake in '64 happened, that was so devastating. I lived there during that time. We don't want that now. Trust me on this. We really don't. It was not fun. I didn't live along the coastline. I had a roommate, though, that did ultimately in college. Yeah, you always meet, when you live in Oregon, you always meet people from Alaska. I don't know why, but you just do. Anyway, she was from there, and her dad was at a radio station, and he was, on the radio during the typhoon and during the tsunami that hit, the tidal wave that hit down there on the coast. I mean, it was horrible, just horrible. Places in Anchorage. I didn't live in Anchorage. I lived in Eagle River. Not Eagle River. I lived in Wasilla, actually. I moved to Eagle River eventually, but I lived in Wasilla during the earthquake. Anchorage had places where the ground opened up, swallowed homes, people, cars, whatever, closed back up. Yeah, we don't want this, right? So anyway, sorry to digress about that, but I made this thing move. So anyway, anyway, 4 is about structure and foundation. But here, he doesn't seem to want to share that with anyone. He's wearing it as part of his crown. He's displaying it for everyone. He's holding on to the one right here. He's stepping on the others. So it's almost like it's wealth for wealth's sake, not because he necessarily earned it or because it was through hard work or effort, but this is mine, Kind of reminds me of what the guy in the Oval Office said last night. Or I saw it last night, or maybe it was in the afternoon. I don't know when he spoke, but talking about how that we have succeeded or something over there in the northern Syria region where we're, allowing for the, there's people that are being executed on the side of the road right now. I read that just before coming on here. So whatever he thinks is happening, whatever he's told himself, it's just not, okay? It's as bad as we think it is. It's likely going to go to The Hague, and that's really awful. But he said something about how we did it, me, I did it, me. It's like, really? I don't think we need a 4th card here. But we look here, and we're going to bring some things to balance in terms of our perception. Clearly, this guy, if this authority figure is representing us personally, then basically we're having some issues with income and money and how we view that, and maybe we need to have a little bit different a change in perception here, and maybe go forward in shared purpose. You see the X down here. That's reminiscent of Gebo. The 7th rune of the Elder Futhark, again, shared purpose, balance with others, energetic exchange, balanced energy exchange with others. Here we see the girl is, and I can't tell for sure if this is a younger girl that's got white hair, so it could be an old lady like me, but she's offering a chalice filled with flowers. There's a white lily in each one for purity, reciprocity, love. But again, 6 is about harmony. It's about higher self-influence. We're progressing from the 4, which we're getting our material structure established, but then we're having to realize, well, wait a minute, we're not this form, that in fact we are spirit informing all of it. And so here we see that transition from taking care of the self to then service to others. So service to self, service to others. So there needs to be then a transition today between the two. We've got to decide, what are we going to be? We got to bring that in balance. It's one thing to, go to work and build your wealth and all of that, but if we can't understand that it simply isn't all about us, that it has to be about living in shared purpose with other people, it doesn't then mean that you take, a portion of your paycheck and hand it off to people around you. That's not what I'm saying. There's more to do with wealth than simply income, but income's part of it. Sometimes it's about how you share your time and where you place your focus. So what this is basically telling us is to perhaps maybe live in the more allowing aspect of self and less in the restrictive aspect of self today. Maybe break out of, I don't want to interact with anyone, and maybe go out and interact with someone. Maybe go to the grocery store. Let someone go before you that you don't need to do that with. Let them do it anyway. See how it makes you feel. See the impact it has on them. Feel that energetic exchange. That's what this is saying. It could be simply that in our lives, we've just gotten way too focused on the self, or maybe building wealth to the exclusion of everything else. To the exclusion of everyone else. you know, and we can't understand that it's just simply a matter of perception. It's really not so much a matter of need, is it? We can always share, even if it's just our time. You know, we may not be able to donate to a particular charity, but maybe we can go volunteer, you know, or at least, you know, send good thoughts their way. Something that connects you to something outside of the self and into a little bit more shared purpose with other people. Let's go ahead though, and we're doing pretty good on time here. We're about 25 minutes in because I gabbed a little too much about, you know, astrology and other things. I'm sorry. Uruz, second rune of the Elder Futhark, again, balance. It's going to align well with the tower and its own 7 energy. But here, again, it's telling us that everything comes from spirit. Because Uruz, and I love this, I always bring up interpretations that are not my own because most of them are so much better than mine. Drizzle was one that I read. I just thought that was the most amazing thing. It's not the manifestation of things into form. It's the forming force behind it. That's drizzle. And so, anyway, be the drizzle in your life and manifest something new, but it has to come from somewhere, right? So again, we're talking if everything is a manifestation of thought, once it's passed emotion, right? If it's all if it's all projected thought or projected consciousness, right? Then we have a change in perception today. So it's on that level, you see, why Uruz is reinforcing that. I want to show you something else about Uruz. You see how the shorter side, if you looked at this, you look at that as the masculine side. If you look at that as the horizontal plane, how do I want to say this? There's an emphasis on the feminine. There's an emphasis on the receptive presence. Because if you look at this, I'm going to draw this out for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Again, think in terms of patriarchy. Well, that one I didn't draw it very well. I need to have the line a little bit shorter. Think in terms of patriarchy. If we look at the left side as Laguz, that's a water element. It's feminine. It's about change. It's about flow. And so here we want to flow more in receptive presence than we want to in masculine or in projective or masculine presence. You can see the right side is shorter. When we manifest, we are doing so out of love. We don't want to, in other words, we want to manifest love, we want to manifest reciprocity. We can certainly take care of our own needs, but we want to understand that we're part of the greater consciousness. So basically what we want to do is have our expression here be more heavily weighted on the receptive and less so on the projective side. Had we remained that way, then it would have been a more matriarchal type of existence here with shared purpose and reciprocity and everybody elevating together, because that's the emphasis of the maternal in us. It's not, or of the mother principle within. It's not about the father principle within, which is masculine and resistive. The feminine presence is flowing and loving, and the masculine presence is just a little bit, focused on themselves. You could look at, if you looked at service to self, service to others, you would look at service to others being the feminine side and service to self being the masculine side. And basically what this is telling us here is we need to bring that into balance here a little bit. It's not that we don't want to have a service to self focus at times, because we have to go out, we have to go to school, we have to learn things, we have to get a degree, we have to, or something, right, to prepare us to be able to go out as an adults and make our way in life, right? So we can get a nice job that pays enough money to live, we can support our families, all of that. So it's service to self has to be there. It just can't be the only thing. It can't all be about you. In other words, it has to be about others as well. And I think that when we talk about urus, that's what we're talking about. And because of its structure, I think inherent in it is the great mother's principle versus the patriarchy that sort of happened along the way. It wasn't supposed to, mind you. Patriarchy is not an expression of spirit, it is an expression of form. So I need batteries, don't I, in this thing? So I have a single dot for air, for fire, one for air, one for one for water and two for earth. So I have Cauda draconis, which is considered an evil influence. It's actually a what it is a represents the south node of the moon, or past life experience or influence. And what it looks like is this. It's the tail of the dragon. And so for whatever reason, that, along with Carcer and Rubeus, the old geomancers in ancient times, several hundred years back, thought that if you drew this the first go around, because when you do a chart, you throw these 4 times, and from there you combine them together and you create the rest of the chart. Well, so the first glyph you throw, if it's one of those 3, then you have to end the reading, destroy everything, because it's too evil to continue. Whatever. Anyway, we're talking about the end of the matter here. And I really think that it's the end of the chaos, okay? You know, if you're looking at what's going on with us collectively in our country, we're looking at the last-ditch efforts of people to conceal their guilt or to conceal someone else's guilt. I think the saddest part about all of that is I would suspect that a lot of the folks that have likely received donations from Russian sources probably didn't even know it was happening. You know, it was concealed on the other people's ends, although, you know, they had, Russian type names, so you would have thought they would have maybe thought about it, but they, the 2 in question were American citizens. So I don't know what you do there. Do you not? I mean, say you have somebody that emigrates from Russia or Ukraine or somewhere over there, right? Czechoslovakia, somewhere, right? And they emigrate, they become citizens. Well, you want them in your political process, don't you? I mean, of course you do. They're here. They want to be Americans. They're excited. They're eager. Unless it was done by design, unless that citizenship was done by design. It's kind of looking like that's what it was, right? I don't know. But I think that what we're seeing now is things coming into view, and whatever illusion that they've wanted to have isn't going to stand. It just isn't. The light of day is here, and you're seeing everything. And so we have to move from a single-minded focus here of whatever our perceptions were, especially if it was in support of the guy in question. You're going to have to move out of that single-minded focus and into a more shared, understanding, maybe, with everyone. This is the way it was back in Watergate with Nixon. There wasn't a lot of support for impeachment in the beginning, but then over time, as more truth came out, and right now the House committee doesn't have a special prosecutor to do all of this investigation. Theoretically, we already had that done. But then now we have more things that are happening, right? And it looks like they're going to focus on that. Well, problem is, over time things are going to come out, and that's not, and then then the other side's going to do, whatever they can to stop it. Even to the point of his lawyers going before a higher court, not yet the Supreme Court, but a higher court, and they're trying to suggest to him that to the judges that, yeah, if our client wanted to shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue, the police can't, while he's in office, the police can't even talk to him about it. They can't arrest him, they can't interrogate him, they can't interview him, they can't even stop him from doing it. So I'm going to ask all of you, is this what we want? I mean, if this ends up being true and real, which I don't think it is, no lawyer's saying that it is, only the ones that support this guy and defend this guy, right? I mean, it's just so mobster-esque, isn't it? to think something like this. To think that the guy who occupies the highest seat in our country is above the law? Really? No, that was in a memo back in Nixon's time. It wasn't even a law. Congress didn't pass anything. The court never ruled on anything. It was just some guy in an office wrote a memo that everyone conveniently wants to follow now. There's no basis in law for it. There's no basis in the Constitution for any of it, right? Again, the tower is here. You can look at the tower as information coming in that aspect of our lives, or perhaps personal, where we have to then understand that we can go no further. We have to make a decision. Are we going to live in service to self or service to others? And how are we going to manifest that in our lives? You know, clearly, whatever we've been doing hasn't been working. So we need to bring this to a conclusion. Let this be part of our past. And, you know, sure, allow it to inform the present and the future. So to remind us that, but only to remind us, I should say, not just to remind us, but only to remind us that we don't want to go there anymore in the path of restriction and single-minded focus and inability to see the bigger picture behind us, you see. Because this isn't just about wealth. This is about perception as well. This is about how we see our life. And that's the earth element. It's not just, you know, the money, the income, the Akashic record, or any of it. It's about how do we navigate this world we're in these bodies? How do we navigate this incarnation in a way that's meaningful, that fulfills whatever soul agreements that we established before coming here? Because clearly we have to do that. But then how do we move forward spiritually? How do we ascend, if you will, into higher perceptions and higher awareness? Because that's really what ascension is. So, in any event, I guess that's it. This will give you something to think about for the whole weekend, because I won't be back until Monday now. But again, how are we, you know, there's a lot coming in on us right now. Whether it's in our personal lives or whether it's what's going on in the country, there's a lot coming in. And clearly, even if it's the stuff that's external to us, it's affecting our personal lives. And so we have to figure out how, whether it's that or something else going on, whatever it is, we've got to figure out how we feel about it and where we want to go and what focus we want to have. Do we want to simply just, you know, sit in our own little world and not, you know, extend ourselves to others? Or do we want to do that and experience the balanced energy exchange with others that the Six of Cups advises us to do? I mean, it's an offering, really, both to self and others. And it's one that's an offering of spirit. So I say take it. Anyway, check out the blog. There's going to be something on burdock going up here pretty soon. Today, tomorrow, or something. I don't know when. But I'm going to do that. I did a tincture. I went and I've been planting lesser burdock, so the roots aren't quite as big, but I planted some greater burdock over by the cannabis, and I didn't dig it last year. Maybe I've had it there. This might be the third year. Anyway, I finally dug one of them. And there's two of them there, and I dug one of them. And I know there's still root there, so I won't have to worry about it. But the thing was huge. I mean, it was like, you know, like this long. It was 2 pieces. It was a dual root, you know. Anyway, I tinctured some of it, and some of it I did a really strong decoction, which is a simmer. You don't boil, you just bring it to simmer, and you do that for a while. You do it with roots and bark and stuff like that. But you can actually use that then as a menstruum for other teas and other infusions. You could then, you know, strain it because a lot of times you freeze your herbs and use them a couple of times. With burdock, I don't, because I think I got probably most of it out of it. But burdock likes to extract both with water and with alcohol. And so I'd used grain alcohol, so I'll have to dilute it quite a bit when I'm done because it was fresh. But the other, I just did, sort of a quart jar of it, and it came up about halfway after I was done straining it. And then the rest I added, about a quarter of witch hazel and a quarter of 91% rubbing alcohol. And because I'm just making skin liniment, basically. Burdock is not only a liver alternative, which will help you with, keeping your blood purified and your liver functioning properly, which, believe it or not, affects whether or not you have allergies. It affects whether or not you have eczema and skin disorders. It can affect autoimmune stuff. It can just affect everything. So that's why herbalists tend to focus on these foundational type of herbs to try to keep everything functioning at that lowest level, the ground level, basically. And and one other thing I guess I wanted to say about empaths here, if you're empathic, then structurally here, energy-wise, you're looking at some kind of energetic change or shift that is likely you're going to go from restrictive energy with the 4 to more, outward expressive energy. So and the 6 is going to also be more enveloping. There is actually, with this restriction, a push energy to push away. So that's really kind of a push-pull energy you might experience today, and you have to find some, you need to identify what it is and try to move into the more expansive Jupiter enveloping energy versus the restrictive push energy. So anyway, I meant to say that earlier, and I just went on, and I didn't do this. So there's that. But as far as the blog post, I tell you how to make all of that over there. So if you want to check that out, I do those things from time to time. I'm going to do that with the burdock. But basically, I made 2 different things, just like I did with, what else did I just do recently? Was it Oregon grape? Yes, I did. I think I did a skin liniment and and I just did one other. What was it? Oh, I can't remember, but it's on there. I did one with Oregon grape, and I did 2 different things, a tincture and a skin thing. Maybe that's what it was, but it seems like it was something else that I did this with, but maybe it was the Oregon grape. Well, there might be one after Oregon grape. Anyway, look for that. It's on the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. I can't remember. I do these things, and I once they're up, they're gone out of my head. So if I don't look and I don't write it down, I don't remember what I did. But anyway, burdock is coming up. Check that out. 2 different things to make. Different from the last time, though. Although witch hazel is still involved in the skin thing. It's just not, I'm not just soaking it in, I know what it was. No, it was a silica-based tincture. That's what it was. And it was predominantly horsetail, dandelion, nettle, and oat straw. And I made it in 2 forms. One internally, a tincture, and then the other I did a skin liniment, and I'm soaking it in witch hazel. And I got to tell you, that is so cool. It'll preserve it because it's got enough alcohol in it, but it's just I love witch hazel anyway on the skin. But anyway, it's sort of a collagen producer, so if you get to be my age, you kind of lose some of that. And so I have that. But the other that I have is the burdock one, and that's so very cool. It helps with skin diseases, like I said, because it's a liver alternative herb. And it can also be eaten. It's a root. It's basically a root crop. Some people eat it. They stir fry it. But I don't. I just, grow it and then use it herbally, medicinally. So anyhow, that's it for today, I guess. I just wanted to tell you about that. And so check out the blog. And I guess we will see you on Monday. Be good to yourself. Be good to one another. Blessed be.